Welcome, man.
Hi.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome to Jeans. So, Joey, tell us a little bit about your holiday break, man. How'd it go? How's it going so far?
It is great. Been staying in Buchanan. My girlfriend, it's her first time in West Virginia, so showing her around.
Super glad that you're here.
Jeans is a wonderful place to show her.
Yeah. I love bringing people to West Virginia. Growing up here, I think we were talking about this earlier. A lot of times people have an idea of what this place is, but I think you've got to kind of come and experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is honestly probably the first place that I take a lot of folks whenever I come to Morgantown, right? Jeans for me was a big part of that, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, we're super excited to get a chance to chat with you a little bit, Joey, and talk a little bit about your music. And I'm also really curious to learn a little bit more about kind of your story and get a chance for you to share in your hometown kind of where it all came from. And so I guess to get started, can you tell us a little bit about where we're at, Morgantown, and kind of where this place is, what it means to you?
Oh, this is home.
Yeah.
This is everything. I get all giddy telling her about it, but I worked at the Carvel ice cream that used to be on High Street.
Okay.
That was my first job.
Nice.
High school 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
You know, because we used to kick your ass.
Yeah.
I
like how you threw that in there.
You gotta. Yeah, man, this is home.
Yeah. Do you make it back often, or?
A couple times a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long has it been since you were, full time?
Since what?
Since you lived here full time?
10 years.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a weird feeling coming back, for me at least. Like we moved back. It's been almost 5 years now, and I remember growing up, I was in this class in high school. It wasn't about debate, but we had a little debate section, and I remember arguing with my classmates that if you wanted to be successful, if you wanted to chase your dreams, you had to leave West Virginia. Like there was no opportunities here. And fast forward 10, 15 years, and now my job in my current role is to convince people to move to West Virginia.
Yeah.
And I myself am back here too. So tell me a little bit about what it's like for you to come back home to Morgantown and be back where you're from.
Oh, it's great. I mean, for me, it feels like nothing's changed ever.
That's
like
awesome.
Just feels like home.
Yeah, I know it's always odd for me now living in my hometown, like going out to Walmart, gas station, whatever, and like running into people that you recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And I always struggle because I'm great with faces, horrible with names, and I am blessed and cursed with a name like Paris. Like everybody is like, "Oh, you're Paris, right?" And I'm like, "I know you don't know me, but you remember my name." And now I'm the asshole because I don't remember yours.
Yeah.
But it is always an interesting feeling being back.
Where are you at now?
We moved back to Fairmont. So ironically, like that story, right? Like of me wanting to leave West Virginia, I ended up leaving and traveling and doing all sorts of stuff outside of the state, and I'm back living in a house that was about 4 or 5 houses down the road from a house I lived in junior high. So like complete full circle.
That's great.
Yeah. So 10 years ago, you started taking your music more seriously and moved out to LA. But tell us a little bit about kind of those early days with your music. And I know for me, like I remember when I was in college, it's right around the same time that you released your first mixtape and started making music. And I remember hearing some of the stuff around the same time as Huey Mack was coming up, and it felt like that genre of music was really starting to make waves. And tell us a little bit about that era for you and kind of that season that took you out to LA and where it went for you.
Yeah, when I was 18, a senior in high school, I was working at Carvel Ice Cream, and I was umpiring at the boat park, I can't remember which field it was.
Yeah.
Saved up a bunch of money, and I saw Wiz Khalifa, who wasn't big yet, but like we knew him because he was from Pittsburgh.
Right.
He tweeted, "If you need studio time, come to my studio." And this was kind of like before you could just do it yourself on a laptop like you can now. And it was like $50 an hour to go record at the same studio as Wiz Khalifa back then.
Man.
I saved up a bunch of money and made my first mixtape.
Yeah.
And it took off kind of.
Yeah.
And by my sophomore year of college, I was like full-time touring.
Yeah.
I dropped out of school.
Yeah.
And it just kind of I also like, I never thought I would go to Los Angeles. I was always like, I don't see the need because it was working here.
Right.
And then I signed a deal with Universal, and they were like, hey, come use our studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never left.
Yeah.
So I just kind of ended up there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, you know, obviously, we kind of had not very different lives, right? But we were kind of in the same external environment around the same time. And I remember, like you were saying back in the day, like if you wanted to be creative or make music, it wasn't hard, right? It wasn't hard, but it was harder than it is now, for sure. Like you didn't have as many platforms to get your stuff out there. But like, what was it like being a kid from West Virginia, and then, you know, just embracing your music and becoming an artist? Like, what was that transition like, or how did that happen for you? Was it always part of your
I got lucky where like the first music video that I ever made, which was made for $300, it has like millions of views on YouTube. Like that was the first thing I ever did. So it like immediately took a little bit.
Right.
And then every time for the next year or so, everything I did just kind of like worked for me.
Yeah.
And then you had the other non-music things that came out, like the I'm Schmacked. And it just kind of like, it was very organic, and like we definitely wasn't like trying too hard. I was still like a kid, just having fun.
Yeah, it's always like a serendipitous like thing of timing and opportunities, and they just kind of happen sometimes.
Yeah, it was also that genre of music that was like the perfect time for somebody like me.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like right at the come up. Like it felt like it went from maybe like niche underground to all of a sudden like everything that you heard when you were out as a college student.
Yeah, it was like the first time like unpolished music was like anybody could do it. And it was starting to be like, oh, that's interesting. That kid's like me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think hip hop was in a really cool time too, because it really started to open up to wider audiences. And, that's awesome, man. So let's kind of go through what it was like making that decision to go to LA. And like I know you had a lot of early success. What was it like going all in and making this your thing and taking that leap?
Like I said, I got really lucky. By the time I was in Los Angeles, like I had toured, so I knew a lot of people.
Right.
And I had friends, and I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
So it was very like go with the flow kind of thing.
Right.
And yeah, never look back.
It's funny, like sitting across from you, like I can't help but kind of like put myself in your shoes, right? And like empathize with your story. I can imagine being like a 23-year-old, like blowing up like that and having all that success, and then experiencing all that. Like, I don't know if I would have made it through. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, you would have.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that you lived that, because I think for me it's been really cool to see kind of your journey. And even the same, we were talking about Charles earlier, and you know, as a West Virginian, I think you're always, for me, I was always looking for a story that I could relate to, right? And a lot of the stories that you relate to, as you know, in my experience, were ones that I didn't necessarily want to relate to, right? But when I see like young artists around my age who have made it, and you know what I mean, to whatever degree they've made it, I think it's really cool to put myself in that place and see your success, and kind of I get some energy from that, right? Like I get some excitement around that, and so I'm really excited to sit and interview you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. So let's kind of jump forward a little bit and talk about what you're doing now. I know your music, it seems, has taken you've gone through this journey, and there's been some changes that I've noticed, but I'd love to hear from you. Like what has that development looked like from, you know, day one, Wish Me Luck, right, to like now with this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
Yeah.
I like you said, that style of music that we were doing back then, it's got to grow from that.
Yeah.
And over COVID, we were all locked down. California was just completely shut down.
Yeah.
And out of boredom, I just learned how to play guitar.
Right on.
And the first song I wrote was a song called Dear West Virginia.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I ever wrote on a guitar. And then Brad Paisley ended up singing on that.
Yeah.
And I was like, this doesn't fit any of the other music I've making.
Right.
So I just started writing everything with the guitar.
Yeah.
Moving forward, and kind of just naturally shifted.
That's cool. That's cool to
Yeah.
hear. Like, I think not everybody had as much productivity during the pandemic or positive pandemic habits. But
Oh, it
picking up
wasn't
the
much
guitar-
productivity, but the one worked.
Yeah, that one was a good
Yeah.
choice. That's cool. How did that collaboration happen? Because on that album you have a lot of features, and I think Brad Paisley is obviously a big notable one. But like, how did that all come to be?
Originally, I had wrote the chorus of that song in 2016, and Charles sang on it.
Okay.
But it was like a hip hop version. It's kind of a rip off of like what's the Kanye and Chris Martin song, the Coldplay song.
Oh,
He's talking about Chicago as a person,
yeah.
and it was definitely like in my head. I was like trying to do something like that, and it just did. I couldn't figure out how to make it work back then. And then when I was learning guitar, I rediscovered that, and I sang the chorus instead of the original. And I was just like, I wonder if Brad Paisley would do this. So I had my manager reach out to his, and he was like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that was cool to see. I don't think I was in town yet, but I saw the music video drop, and it was just for me like that. What that song really resonates with my story, and like I know when I was away from the state. Ironically, like, and I say this because like I didn't recognize it in the moment. I felt very much like I was a hater. Like I didn't hate West Virginia, but I struggled with the perceived lack of opportunity and lack of acceptance and lack of whatever that I had growing up here, right? But as I traveled and I left, I felt myself always like defending West Virginia and like feel like I needed to explain and justify, and it grew this like sense of pride, right? Like I started to feel really proud of the state, and then I think it all kind of when I started to head towards the domestic life, right? Like I started to pursue my wife and got married and started thinking about kids. Like this idea of West Virginia became so powerful, like connecting back with my roots and experiencing that and then wanting that for my kids has been a big part of my story now. But in that song, I hear a lot of that same sentiment of just like appreciation, right? Yeah. So like how do you feel about West Virginia? Like how do you feel about that part of your story, and how does that come through in that?
I mean, I love it. I don't think I would be me if I grew up somewhere else, you know. Like I always have a chip on my shoulder, and definitely comes from here. Yeah. I hear it a lot in your music. I think that's something that I appreciate, and I think we talk about Charles a little bit. And I'd love to talk a little bit about your all's relationship, but I hear that in his music too. Like just this, it's hard to define what it means to be a West Virginia artist, but there's something about it. There's something there. There's like a little bit of like maybe grit or like determination extra. Well, it's the same way we look at our sports teams, right? You always feel like you're the underdog.
Because we always are the underdog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's talk about Charles a little bit. Like how do you all know each other, and what's the connection there?
We grew up together. So our families are both from Buchanan.
Okay.
Our grandmas were best friends.
Oh, you're from Lewis County.
We're both from here,
right,
Charles. But our families, like my grandma,
Got it.
Buchanan, my mom now lives in Buchanan.
Cool.
And his as well. So I met him at Wesleyan basketball camp when we were like 6.
Okay.
And then we grew up together, went to high school together, played football.
Yeah.
Beat your ass.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah, so no, we've always been friends, and like as a kid, I was the one who was like passing out mixtapes, wanting to be a musician, and then when we were like 23, I saw him start putting him singing up on the internet, and I was like, this guy can sing.
So are you implying that you maybe inspired Charles Wesley to?
Oh God, no. No, I was.
He was thinking of you and those mixtapes when he was making.
No. The complete opposite. If anything, I turned him off. I was the overzealous. Like I'm gonna do this. And then one day he just pops out and he's just incredible.
Yeah.
And you're like, ah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get that. I have that little bit of that sentiment with him as well, because I was a college kid making music around the same time, and I'd found no success in the music that we were making, and he came out of nowhere and it seemed to find a lot of success. So it's cool to see like kind of both y'all's stories paralleled, and the fact that you all have so much like history there, and then the most recent song that you guys did, the song on that Cozy Bar album, is awesome, and I think I'd love to talk a little bit about that too, because being in a bar, that song is really relevant, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. How has that collaboration been with Charles? It sounds like that is one of many projects that you guys have had a chance to work on together.
Well, he sang on something for me many years ago, and that never came out.
Right.
And then when I was making the Cozy Bar album, I always had in my mind, like, I wanted to send him something, and I wrote that, and it's kind of like a duet. He only has 2 lines of the whole thing, but I was like, this would be cool if I had a friend on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Charles. So I texted him, I was like, hey, I know we got completely different styles, but if you'd be open to doing this. And he did it the next day. And
that's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, he crushed it.
Yeah.
He makes the song, in my opinion.
He definitely brings that.
When he comes out,
tone,
it changes.
Yeah, it does. It is a vibe change, and he definitely brings a lot of that, like, kind of warmth. And then for me, like, as like a now reformed West Virginia, like, advocate and fan, like, it's just really cool to see 2 artists from West Virginia collaborating on a piece.
No, that was cool, and it was sentimental to me, just because, like, I never got to work with somebody I grew up with.
Yeah. So what is that relationship like? Because I know I have my experience, but, like, when you come back home or you come back to Morgantown or wherever, like, do you still have like friends here that you connect with and community and stuff? Yeah.
I mean, as you probably do, a lot of people moved away, but yeah. Ones that are here, we'll still see.
Yeah, it is always tough. I feel like all the best folks end up. Yeah. But hopefully we can change that, man. We can bring them back.
Yeah.
That's my objective, at least. Yeah. So the Cozy Bar, like, when you came out with that album, obviously it was a new piece of your art, right? Like, becoming an instrumentalist from being, like, a vocal-centered artist is, like, a big change, right? Like, it just, at least for me, like, opens up so many more possibilities. But, like, how would you define that shift in your music from, you know, what it was before, maybe being a little bit more vocally focused, and now you're bringing not only your vocals and your storytelling, but you're also bringing your instrument to it? Like, what's that been like? What's that experience been like for you?
Kind of have to relearn music. Just like, I started working with a vocal coach, because like, it's still very much hip hop melodies, but it's over. I'd say it's more indie than country, but people say it's country, just because of people I've worked with, obviously. Right. But yeah, it's just kind of. It's kind of like the old music, just now with a guitar. Yeah. It's all guitar driven.
Yeah. I think it's in line with a lot, I think, trends in music right now.
Yeah, I got really lucky in that, because I did it, and now country's incredibly popular again.
Yeah. But every hip hop artist is coming out with country
everybody's doing it now. Yeah. I barely beat it.
Yeah. So you inspired Beyonce?
I don't know about that. I don't think I inspire anybody.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious, like, what has been the reception, right? Because it is in this last album, I think, it's not even really, like, it's not a big leap, right? It's not like you completely reinvented yourself, but I can imagine the differences, like, people notice the differences from the Cozy Bar compared to your older stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what's that reception been like?
It's been good. We just did we just did 28 shows across the U.S., and there were people there for old, and there were people there for new, but it felt like more people were coming for the new stuff now. And there weren't as many, like, play the old stuff, which is all you can kind of hope for, that people will grow up with you. Yeah, that is
I think one of the things that makes it tough as an artist is that your music lives on, right? Like, when I was in college, we recorded an album.
Some of it, unfortunately,
right? And it's tough because, like, I don't want to talk about by myself, but there was we wrote an album when I was in college, and had a really cool, like, community of fans that were a part of our, like, just friend group as well. And some of them are, like, one of our friends is getting married, and she asked our band to come back and, like, do a reunion show for her wedding. And I was going listening through all of our music again, and I'm like, man, this is like, I was 20 years old, you know what I mean? I was like 20-some years old when we wrote this stuff, and I still appreciate the music, but it just also feels kind of tough sometimes to like reconcile the differences between like, you know, where you were and where you are now. But do you have any experience with this bar or this part of town, Greenmont? Like, what's your...
Yeah. Well, I went to high school right there.
Right.
This is where all our football coaches would go after the games.
Okay.
So I always knew about it in high school, but then when we started coming in college and started running into those guys,
yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing your teachers and coaches out of context is always fun. In some of your songs, you really paint a picture of like what that, I say like bar community, but like what that place is for you, right? Like Carry Me Home. You talk about like wanting to be at a place that feels like everyone knows your name. And I know for me and maybe some of our listeners, like Jeans is that place for us, but like, is there a place that like in your mind that you were picturing or that you were like envisioning when you wrote that or when you think about?
So I was working on that album and it was kind of a new transition and I didn't know what I was going to call it. Mm-hmm. And in Los Angeles, we have this little dive bar that we go to called the Cozy Inn.
Oh, nice.
And one night I was in there and I was like, this is what the album feels like.
Yeah.
It's just like, don't do private parties.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Don't take shit. Like, just a real dive bar.
Yeah.
And I was like, this feels like my place.
Yeah.
And so that's why I ended up calling it that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad you found that. I think that everyone needs a place like that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone needs a place where they feel welcome. And yeah, I mean, I think that we were talking a little bit about where this whole project and podcast came from, and I think a lot of that stems from this experience of folks who are coming from all over, moving to Morgantown and being in Greenmont and running into Jeans or like walking through the door and getting some of those similar vibes, right? I think it really helps you to feel like you can let your guard down and
totally
be yourself. Yeah. So I felt warm listening to those songs. It's that one specifically because I was like, man, like I'm grateful.
That was the last song made for that.
Okay.
Because I wanted a little bar intro, so.
Yeah. So, you know, you had the album released 22? Right?
Yeah, end of 2022. Yeah.
And then you said you just got done with a tour.
Yep.
Yeah, how did that go?
It was good. It was long. It's a lot harder on your body at 33 than it was at 23.
Yeah.
But it was good. Yeah, we just did 21 in 28 days, so it was like nonstop.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite show from the tour?
Or
least favorite show?
There were places now that I don't primarily rap, like I had never played a show in Wyoming before, so I got to like do a show out there for the first time, and there were cool moments like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Theo Vaughn came out to that show. That was really sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they kind of all run together, to be honest with you, because you're so like fast moving.
Do you enjoy? I mean, obviously there's parts you probably enjoy and probably parts that are tough. But like, what is touring like for you? So you mentioned like being in your 30s. I'm sure physically a lot more demanding.
Well, it used to be like you go do the show, then you go party, and now it's like I'm just going to the hotel.
Gotta protect my voice.
I'm tired. I'm sleepy, man.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's a lot more relaxed, but also I have a band now, so it's the days are a lot more hectic.
Yeah, a lot more organizing. And I saw most recent project, at least on Spotify, Bar Lights. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that, and like, and if you have any other things that you're working on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start releasing new music again this year. Hopefully now by the end. Bar Lights is actually a cover of an old country song, like an old country song I love.
Awesome.
By this band called Whiskey Town from like the 90s. I just love the song, so I was like, let's cover it.
Yeah. So you feel like that is kind of the direction that you feel inspired to head towards, is a little bit more like, we'll call it country, but you know, a little bit more in that vein.
Yeah. When I started learning guitar, it was the first time I like started finding artists in that vein, like folk, alt country, Americana, and I just really fell in love with a lot of the songwriting that I had never been exposed to, and I was about to be 30 years old, so obviously I think there's like a mental shift where you start hearing these beautiful songs about like regret and like Jason Isbell. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's my favorite writer. Yeah. And you just start hearing these like beautiful, honest stories about that, and that's what inspired me. Yeah. And a lot of the early 2000s alt country was like I love it now. And I would have never listened to it 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I'm a bluegrass fan now.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I felt like at one point I was like only hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And it made sense. I was like, 18, 19, 20 years
Yeah.
old. Like hip hop was a representation of my story. And now as I'm a dad and a husband, I find myself like really connecting it with, bluegrass and country and folk music that has a little bit more some of those other sentiments, right? Like of looking back and nostalgia and thinking a little bit more deeply or differently about things. So.
Yeah. I think one of the most beautiful ways or things about it is like in hip hop you have so many words. You can just say so much.
Yeah.
And that type of music you have to say so much with so little.
Yeah.
Because you only get 4 or 5 lines, whatever. In hip hop you
can say as fast as you can talk. That's actually really insightful. Yeah. And then I think the other piece too is a lot of hip hop artists are instrumentalists and or producers that make a lot of the music. But again, there's something different about, you can say a lot with your words, but you can also say a lot with your playing and with your music. And having an instrument in your hand, I think really like opens up your vocabulary. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. I got a couple questions I wanted to ask you. Being in your hometown, there's a lot of people here that know you. So we got some questions from some friends of yours.
Friends?
That I wanted to, hopefully friends, yeah.
Okay.
So you heard me mention Wish Me Luck earlier, right?
Yeah.
That's a project that not many people might know about. How would you define Wish Me Luck to folks?
I don't remember it that well. Just a kid.
Yeah.
Something to prove.
Like 16, 17?
I was 18.
18, okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's good. It's better.
I think because I used to be on Dat Piff, I think that's gone now.
It is. It is gone. I looked. It is absolutely gone.
I think you might be able to find some like stragglers on YouTube, but
some like MP3 files somewhere. I mean, yeah. It's some of our earliest stuff. It's good to get out there, but it's also good to kind of forget about.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've been holding it back this entire time, and even after all the jabs about football, I haven't once called you Jehovah, but.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Huey Mack is a name that you've adopted as kind of like your stage name or whatever. But what was that process like for you of figuring out what to call yourself or like how to define yourself?
Well, my MySpace rap name was Jehovah because I didn't know what a Jehovah's Witness is, but I heard it.
Yeah.
And I really like Jay-Z. And my name's Joey, so I put those together, Jehovah.
I like it.
I had no idea what a Jehovah's Witness was, just a kid. So I went by that for a few years. And then freshman football, we were playing NCAA college football at a cookout, and you couldn't use real players' names at the time.
Right.
So they gave them random names, and one of the players was Huey Mack.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, that's a much cooler rap name than Joseph Michael. So I went with that.
Nice.
And it stuck.
NCAA, man, for the win. Yeah, that's I definitely enjoyed that because it's tough like figuring out what to call yourself if you wanted to kind of adopt that different persona. It's tough to decide, man.
Yeah, at that time you just thought you had to have a stage name too, and even people today are like, "That's such a cool stage name," and I'm like, "Is it?"
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think you picked well, man. I mean, Jehovah would have worked. Maybe a different path.
Well, nowadays I'd probably just go by Joey Michael.
Yeah.
But
I hear you. Okay, let's see. There's some mention in here about like Big Germ and like way back in the day. Tell us. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like what that interaction was with Big Germ and kind of like how those first days looked like for you.
Oh, well, like I said, Wiz Khalifa was starting to bubble, but he wasn't like, and he had tweeted, "Come to my studio," and they were all cool. They were all also up and coming producers. They hadn't had a hit yet.
Yeah.
But we got along real well. He was older, so I kind of felt like a big brother.
Yeah.
He would little brother me a lot, like shut up.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was really cool. And then I got a first-hand look at all that because you got Wiz, and then first time I went there, I met Mac Miller.
Right.
We were both 17 years old.
Wow.
And they were like cracking jokes on him.
Dang.
Like, this kid just cleans the toilets here.
Dang.
And then within like 6 months, he was off.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, you mentioned earlier like $50 an hour to record at Wiz Studio. I'm sure now.
I used to
like,
make songs I'd get a beat off the internet and I'd make a song in an hour.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder what prices are now.
Yeah, probably more expensive there.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of hits now.
I mean, yeah, $50
Back
an hour
then they
is
didn't
steal.
have any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, one more. There was a time where I remember someone mentioned a collab with Twista
Yeah, I have one.
back in the day.
Mhm.
Can we find that still, or is that still out? Yeah.
It's so I was writing for this DJ, his name Afrojack.
Right.
I was writing for his album, and I just did a vocal take for like somebody else, and he sent it to me, and he's like, "I want you to have this on your album," and it had Twista on it, and I was like, "What?"
Oh man.
So that's out.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was. I also with that when I was writing on his album, I did a song with Bone Thugs and Harmony. Never came out. I never even got to hear it. A lot of cool interactions like that. Twist is awesome, by the way. We shot a music video in Miami for that.
Okay.
He was hilarious. I liked him a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's real cool. I think for a lot of people, like just kind of hearing these names they recognize, like is always just a little exciting, right? Like, how did they meet? Like, what's that process like? And
Yeah, every like thing like that for me has just been so organic. Or like, I had Akon sang on a chorus of one of my songs, and it was just because he was in the room next to me.
Wow.
And heard what we were doing. He's like, I like that.
Yeah.
And never talked to him again. just random cool things like that.
That's cool. I mean, that's really cool. Like, I think talk a lot about like how to can't really like manufacture a lot of this stuff, right? Like you can't like create some of these moments. They just kind of happen, and a lot of times they happen whenever you don't have really direct intentions on it, right? Like you didn't go out and like seek, these things. It just kind of comes.
And anytime I've forced anything, it goes the opposite way.
It feels like every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to hear like how some of those things happen organically and just kind of like what all was happening at the time. It's cool to paint that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all from your past that I have.
Oh.
Nothing too crazy.
That's easy.
Yeah, super easy. But I'm really excited to kind of talk a little bit more about your writing, because as a lyricist, as a hip hop artist, right? Like that's kind of your bread and butter. And it sounds like you've had a chance to not only write your own music, but you've written for others too. Like, what's that process for you like? Like, is it a lot of you tell a lot of stories from your own life experience? Like, is it stuff that you kind of are like ideating or creating on the spot? Like, what does that look like for you?
I think I'm at my best with situation writing. Like, I can only kind of write from my perspective.
Yeah.
When I first moved out to Los Angeles, they would put me in rooms with people like the Afrojack thing, and I just didn't work for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I never liked the idea of like 8 people sitting around going like, let's make a hit.
Right.
So for me, it's always been like me and a couple buddies, or just like me just writing.
Yeah. I mean, it's way easier like when you're telling your own story.
To me, it just comes more, it comes out that way, and I just feel like I always make crap when I'm like trying too hard.
Yeah. So you've alluded to some just inherent changes that happen as we're like, coming older adults in our 30s. Like, stuff is different, right? And so our stories change, or like how we perceive our stories change. Like, where do you see your music heading? Like, where do you see like the next iteration or piece from Huey coming from, looking like?
It's kind of transitioning into a more full band approach to it. The last one, I didn't shift too far away, but I kind of slowly transitioned to that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it, because I think we've alluded to this before, but because we have very similar, like, not birthdays, but like we're around the same time, we had a lot of the same things. Like,
you were 2010, right?
Yeah, 2010. Yeah, so same graduated the same year.
I remember we used to throw those field parties, and you came to one time.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have that in my head.
Yeah.
But I do.
No, I run into those. Some of those memories just like come through sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm amazed at myself in my 20s, because like I think about it now, and like, it comes around like 9, 10 o'clock, and like our family, like everybody's in bed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is it for me. I'm about to clock out, and like that's when things started. You know what I mean? Like, that was when we got ready to get going.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I envy that about my 20-year-old self, but I definitely appreciate now a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more.
A little teeny bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But that's actually that's cool. I'm glad. I was curious before you came in, like, it's the same experience with a lot of people. Like, what's the last memory that you have of me? Is it a good one? Is it one where I'm so like present that I was, what's your point of reference? And I'm curious if you had was that your point of reference for me, that party, that field party?
Yeah. When for some reason I just remembered you. I think we tried to count how many people came to that party. Mm-hmm. Just something a kid would do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just remembered you being there. It was just out in the middle of a field.
Yeah. I have a memory that I don't even know if it's legit or not. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you think back and I feel like somebody manufactures some. But I remember throwing a party for my 21st birthday at the Lofts, and there was all sorts of people there, man. We had like WVU's basketball team was at there, and I remember I really honestly wasn't that coherent during that day, but I heard stories of all of the visitor lots at the Lofts and the Domain and the Chateau, like they were completely full. People just like walking over to our house, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people there. But there was someone shot a music video at this party, and I know it wasn't you, but I felt like it was some of the crew that you guys rode with. I have no idea, but I was thinking about that, and I was like, man, I wonder if Joey was there.
I don't think so.
It was crazy though, man. I think like being back in Morgantown, like I value those experiences, right? But it is really nice to be in a completely different phase of life and have like the perspective to kind of look back on all those and appreciate the fun. But now have, at least for me, like a family and different perspective, different goals now. But
yeah, when you're young, you don't want to grow up, and then you grow up and you're like, I did that. Yeah. I had my fun.
Yeah.
I'm chill now.
So it's cool to hear that in your music, because I definitely connect with that a lot. Like I love where you're going, and obviously you make your music for you, not for me. But telling this story of like growing up and kind of realizing the challenges, or like the dichotomy or the pull of like wanting to still be who you were, but also like wanting something different. That came through a lot in your music, and it definitely resonated a lot with me and my story. So
I'm glad.
Yeah, I really appreciated that. Well, like what's going on? Like anything that you wanted to promote, or anything that you wanted to make sure that you got a chance to share here with us?
There's a new book out about the Hot Dog Diaries. You should get that, because who doesn't love hot dogs? No, man, I got new music coming out this year. We're going to tour some more. I have a show with Sting and Shaggy in January.
Nice.
That's kind of all for me right now.
Yeah. You got anything, like for folks who are local to North Central West Virginia, you got what's your nearest venue that you're going to be at?
I'm not sure yet. We're going to start releasing new music, then tour. Doing a bunch of festivals this summer, so.
Yeah. Well, just keep us updated as that stuff comes out. Like, we'd love to, get that out there.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, like I said, we got a big gig this year. My friend's getting married, so we're bringing the band back to. Yeah, no, it's been cool. Like we had a little project in undergrad called the Cherry Street Band, and a lot of our band members are like kind of in the same boat as me now, like married or like starting families, and some folks have continued their education, right? So like our guitar player and songwriter, he's up in University of Pittsburgh now, like becoming a tenured professor, right? So bringing us all together, like it really feels like a bunch of like old heads like coming back, and like.
Doesn't it feel significantly harder now?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing is like once you get out of the flow, like finding the time to get back together to rehearse or to like pick it, and even just as a guitar player, and I'm sure as like especially when you started out, like finger strength it takes a long time to develop. Getting callous. And so
I thought I was never gonna get it. I was like, I suck.
It takes forever,
I'm a
man.
phony.
Well, you go from like, you can play maybe like, you start out like 10, 15 minutes, your fingers start to hurt, and you get to like up to 30 minutes, and it feels like it takes forever to get like an hour, 2 hours before your hand, but it takes a lot of work, man. And the thought of getting back together to not only like get our music up to snuff, but just like shake off all the cobwebs too, Luckily, like I in the band at the time was not an instrumentalist, so all I have to worry about is like lyrics and music. And the rest of our bandmates, like our bass player, he still is gigging and playing music, and he's out a lot. Our drummer's also like active, plays music with some folks up in Wheeling. our keyboard organist, he is a doctor now at WVU, and then like I said earlier, our guitar player is up in Pittsburgh, but he also still plays music. So luckily, like those guys have the harder job, and they're already like kind of still doing it. I guess for me, I'm just like, man, I hope I don't forget the words to our own music.
Yeah, so that's sometimes Charles is so special because he did all that while raising kids, and I'm like, it's so hard.
What a
like,
feat.
The grit to do that, it's so special.
Yeah, to write music and also to keep touring too, like, man.
Some long days.
Yeah, man. I'm really impressed with that dude. He's got it figured out. So yeah, I mean, I'm just I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to. So what I do now is I work for a program that is recognizing that a lot of folks have the ability to work remotely and live in many different places, and a lot of the times people are looking at this new freedom and looking for places that are cool, right? They're looking for places that they can kind of have that life that they want outside of the city and a little bit cheaper cost of living, and we try to position West Virginia as an awesome spot to make that happen, because I think this place has some obvious struggles, right? There's some obviously things that are tough about the mountains and being here, but there's also a lot of really cool opportunity, and we hear a lot of stories of folks who kind of like me and you, like decided to leave to pursue opportunities, but are feeling some of those same things, right? They're feeling this like draw and this appreciation for their home and their roots, and are figuring out that they can come back here and bring their new job or remote job or whatever. And
it's also very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
We sat and stared at the stars for like 10 minutes last night.
Yeah.
I was like, we never get to see stars anymore.
Yeah. And I think all of us appreciate that a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Like the pandemic, I think, gave us an opportunity to really appreciate a lot of those things. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be back, and I'm excited to. Before this, I was living in Thailand, third world country, like
quite different.
Quite different, right? So it is nice to like be here. Actually, like this is a new improvement in amenities and resources to be back in West Virginia from there. So it is really cool to be home and kind of experience that quality of life that I miss growing up. Yeah. You think you're gonna move back?
I'd have to move all my stuff, which seems like a hassle.
Well, let me know, man.
I
let me know if you decide to swing back to West Virginia, because we would welcome you with open arms.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. Thanks for chatting with us.
Of course.
Appreciated it.
No doubt.
That's all for today. I'm Paris. See you next time at Jeans. Woo, you guys didn't beat us that bad, man.
Oh, you sucked.
Dude. Well, okay. Let me say this.
Fairmont Senior was nice, though. Logan was good.
Oh, you're good. You take it off.
For more on this episode, behind the scenes, and even more music, check us out on Instagram at Welcome to Jeans or online at welcometojeans.com.